What is up, geeks and gamers? It's your boy Q
and QMG.
Bring you guys into the Quniverse where we talk to you guys about everything geeky, gamey, and nerdy. And let me just make sure all my audio options are 100%. Make sure they're junk 100%. There we go. Yeah, there it is. There it is. Make sure everything properly running. Gotta make sure everything is OG and OD. Cause let me go ahead and do it. Boop, boop. You doing all right, QMG? You doing all right today? All my geeks and gamers out there, how y'all doing? Let me know how y'all doing. This is Into the Quniverse. You already know. Gotta let that junk ride out. Gotta let them beats ride out. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. We gonna turn all the way up. Got a great show for y'all. Gonna be talking about some what if. We're gonna be talking about some Marvel. Gonna talk a little bit about DC. Gonna talk about maybe some stuff that might be coming out, some leaks on Monday. So y'all already know. Got my boy QMG.
Get them sent up.
Yeah. Have them sent up. Thanks. Y'all already know. Let that jump ride. Great show. Thank y'all for tuning in. QMG, you doing all right today, bro? Wow. So we gonna start off with a great discussion because I definitely want to know your thoughts, even though you haven't seen all of them. I definitely want to talk about Marvel's What If because as much as I like the show, I think it might even be a little bit overhyped. And this is just me. Now, because I've seen some trailers for the next episode and receptions that it's getting, and a lot of people are already giving it noteworthy accolades, like it should be the award shows winning for best art direction and stuff and storyboard and stuff like that. And I don't know, QMG, it's good. No, don't get me wrong when I say that. I think it's well done and it's very good, but I think it's a little bit overrated. And I don't know. Everybody, all the geeks and gamers out there, let me know what y'all think. Do y'all think what Marvel's What If is overrated, or do you think it's getting the proper attention that it should be getting? Even though, and let's just say the Chadwick Boseman episode was really good. So QMG, what you think?
Because I was out with family this weekend, I didn't get a chance to watch any. I didn't get a chance to watch it. I wish I could, but I really just didn't get a chance to watch the Chadwick episode. So yeah, I wish that wasn't the case. And from what I've heard, it was very emotional. It was very emotional. It was very. Is
it emotional as far as
it was very emotional for a lot of folks who watched it and missed Chad and hearing his performance and whatnot. So everything about it, but overall, it was in a lot of people's opinions, and from what I've seen, I kind of agree with it. It was a lot of people's opinion. One of the best, as I do some crazy stuff with my earphones real quick. Yeah. It was a lot of people's favorite episode so far because of how wild the premise was and how much of the change, how big of changes were made to the whole universe as a whole. So,
well, in their defense, it was only episode 2, so we really can't just say well, we can, but
that's why I said so far.
But obviously, people are gonna say, I feel like they're gonna say it's the best episode only because it was such a giant departure. Because the one with Captain Carter was kind of a little more close to what Captain America did himself, so it wasn't that far different. But the one with T'Challa, obviously, was a way bigger departure from the Guardians of the Galaxy as a whole. Period. So, but to me, I just think. I don't want to say overrated in a bad way. I want to say it's just good animation, a good animated story. I don't think it's should win any awards because I've seen a lot of animation that's better that didn't even get talked about, and movies that didn't get talked about. So
when people say animations, they don't mean that it's devoid of any other competitions being nominated.
Yeah, no,
it's just a simple fact that it deserves to be recognized. So. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that, I already said last week about the first episode that the animation style to me was pretty good. And I appreciated what it was doing and how it made the characters flow.
Yeah.
In certain sequences, and having not seen this episode just yet, but watching the trailer, so I can tell that it didn't divert anything. It didn't look worse off in qualities for quality's sake. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's very much the same type of deal, same type of enthusiasm about the show, about the episode rather, and about where it's going to stay in people's mind. I've seen a lot of people, just because that's what people want in What If. They want it to be a no holds barred experience. They want it to be this new and exciting venture that shows them a different side to the Marvel universe they know. So I'm like, that's why you've seen a lot of people praise this one over the Captain Carter one, because Captain Carter one was pretty, like you said, paint by numbers. Yeah. And
literally just putting a female character in the Steve Rogers role.
Not just like it's not just about the gender.
Yeah, because Peggy's always been badass. I'm just saying it kind of went literally the same route as you know what I'm saying, as Captain America 1.
Right.
So, but yeah, this one was definitely more ambitious. And it's crazy how ambitious it was before they even knew Chadwick was gonna die. That's kind of crazy to even think about. But that's a story for a conspiracy theories for another day. But now, in all actuality, it was definitely more ambitious. Obviously, this one was more seen, and spoilers, y'all gonna watch it. They're self-contained stories. T'Challa's will to will people and to talk to people was seen throughout the show, as far as him making the Ravagers more of a Robin Hood-esque team and reforming Thanos. Spoiler alert, reforming Thanos from even having his own will to go get the Infinity Gauntlet and commit mass genocide. And he was a part of the Ravagers and on T'Challa's team. So, do you think that was a good choice for them to do that?
I mean, that's What If. It's not about, it's when you do play with a concept like What If, the only bad thing you can be is boring. And if it's not boring, then it's not failing, more or less. It's more, so it has that going for it. Yeah. So,
and T'Challa's nickname, Cha-Cha now, y'all.
So that's the major thing with What If. It has to be exciting. It has to be engaging. It has to keep people guessing and keep people's attention from beginning to end.
My only problem with that, for people who've seen it, at the end, there's a lot of episodes, and like you said, we talked about this last week. A lot of episodes are going to end on these cliffhangers that make you like, damn.
That's What If to a T. You're not meant to follow these stories for any length of time. It's literally just to drop you into this one scenario that changes everything, and then just see the immediate effects, or the relevant effects, I should say. And it's not meant to be, now we have this new project, which is Captain Carter or Star-Lord T'Challa or whatever, or Marvel Zombies or whatever the case may be. It's literally just to tell you this one contained story.
Yeah.
And then just, okay.
Miss Yvonne, appreciate you tuning in.
You got it. You got that whole little thing.
Yeah, I give you that. But I feel like from the age we living in and the times we living in, we always want
I think you're speaking for yourself.
I've talked to enough people to know that we love continuity and expounding on stories that we enjoy, that we want to see more of those stories. So I don't think it's a make or break.
Well, I'll just say that.
But if you're gonna ask me, for me, when they ended this episode with Star-Lord mopping up, goddamn, he works at a fast food joint and mopping up, and then an Ego comes in to get him, and Uatu says, and this could possibly mean the end of the world, but that's for another story. I was like, bruh.
But that's What If. That's What If. That's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to just, okay, but moving on. It's not,
What up, Granny? What's up?
Like it's never meant to be anything else. What's up, Granny? I'm glad to see you made it home safe. It's not about creating a story arc. It's about telling a story, the art of a story, not story arc.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what I think that's what makes it cool. It's just to see these and one of the things that I think is very strong in What If is the fact that they bring all the character voice actors back to voice.
Not all.
Who didn't voice their stuff?
A lot of people. I don't know. I can't name.
Talking about in further episodes, because I know in these first two, everybody came back as everybody.
I mean, because that was Josh Keaton. That wasn't Chris Evans as Captain. That was Josh Keaton.
That wasn't Chris Evans?
Not at all. That's obviously wasn't Chris Evans.
I couldn't tell.
That was Benson.
I know that was Nebula. We know Chadwick. I know that was Batista as Drax.
No, absolutely not. Batista made a very big point that they did not ask him
what
that role. No.
So they literally went and found some of the best voice actors, because those guys sounded. I was really listening to see if, and I know that was Michael Rooker. You can't tell me that wasn't him.
Yeah, because Michael Rooker does voice acting. he has a history doing voice acting, so I'm pretty sure that they would ask him to do that.
Yeah,
for credibility. Same goes.
I know that was Thanos.
No, I don't think that was Josh Brolin. I don't remember seeing Josh Brolin.
What? Come on, man!
You got to remember that Marvel puts out at least 2 to 3 different MCU-esque properties, whether it be video games or Lego or whatever. Mm-hmm. With these characters that are meant to put you in the mind of the movie, so they know sound alike.
Well, I wish it was like Amazon Prime. You know, Amazon Prime, whenever you press pause on a specific scene, it has all the actors that were in that scene, like all the main actors.
It has credits, Quincy. You can't.
I don't want to look at the credits. Who watch credits anymore, dude?
Well, you need to, so you will know exactly what, so you'll know exactly who's who. That's what I do. I don't just assume it's one person or not. I make sure I read the credits so I make sure I'm right.
So, is What If a must watch for you at this point? You hearing all the good things about it? Are you gonna get a little bit more invested in it?
Well, considering I'm wondering when Disney Plus will be back on in this house, I can say that you can say that I'm pretty excited for it. I want to keep up with it.
That's why,
so
I ain't gonna deal with you today, bro.
So I can't. I ain't gonna deal with
you.
Asking me a question like I have if I can keep watching it consistently, I will. That's where I'm at with it.
So, What If is obviously an animated property, right? So, moving forward, because I'm gonna bounce around today, because Disney is all encompassing at this point, and I don't know how much it is true. I'm pretty sure it's 100% false, but they're talking about Disney's trying to buy Sony as well. I don't know how much.
No, they can't. Again, every time we talked about this last year.
I don't know how much stock I could put into that.
We talked about it last year. We know for a fact that they cannot buy a company like Sony, because a company like Sony is too big to be sold. That would be a very big.
Fox ain't bigger than Sony.
And at the time they were sold, no, they actually weren't. They were because they actually weren't, because Fox was looking to sell. That's another thing people forget. But Sony is too big of a company to be bought outright. That would be a made one. It's international. It's not an American based like how the Murdochs are with Fox. So that's number one. Mm-hmm. 2, you have to realize Sony isn't just filmographies or anything like that. It's all encompassing: video games, television, film, all of that jazz, even if some departments are larger than the other. And 3, it would be violating huge antitrust laws, because that would be Disney becoming even more of a monopoly than it is.
Facts.
And even the greedy senators on Capitol Hill have to draw the line somewhere, so their bubble doesn't burst.
Sitting on a hill. Facts.
Like
Capitol Hill.
So yeah, anytime you see that with no reputable source, mm-hmm. even like a rumor, then you can just automatically put that in the bullshit pile, because you literally can't do that or even talk about doing that without any sort of liquidation of assets from Sony. Sony would have to give up at least 60% of their properties that they own before they can be seen as a company that can sell themselves to another company. There is no way Disney can purchase Sony as is and bring it into the fold.
And that is your friggin' facts with QMG. Friggin' facts, baby.
I guess.
But no, as I was saying before, What if it's animated property? And we've been seeing a lot of things like Master of the Universe got a huge overhaul over their animation with Netflix, and we've been seeing Castlevania and a lot of other properties come out with newer style, more anime akin to. And it seems that Disney and Star Wars is pushing the envelope with a more anime vibe and anime attention, because Star Wars Visions was announced last week.
Yes,
Star Wars, might I say?
Yes, Star Wars Visions, for those who don't know, is the news. You don't have to do that every time I talk.
That was an anime wow for anime animation.
That was too soon from the last. You got to space them out so they land. With Star Wars Visions, that is a project where it's 9 short anime films.
Yes,
that are being produced by a litany of iconic anime studios, you know, your Studio Triggers and whatnot, and they will be telling Star Wars stories and a litany of different animations and a litany of different characters, and it looks OD. It looks
amazing.
It legitimately looks like Star Wars is going to win anime.
It looks gorgeous
this winter, this fall,
and each of the short films has varying styles.
That's what I just got done saying.
Did you say that?
Yes, I literally did. You mean
hello, darkness, my old friend.
Literally just got done saying that.
But no, what I was fin to say before I was rudely but they have varying anime styles and some of your favorite anime styles. That's what I was finna say.
Still, what I said,
like Kill la Kill. They have Ni no Kuni, all those very famous ones.
Yes, when I said Studio Trigger, the good folks out there who know what they know Studio Trigger did both Kill la Kill and the Shantae, the latest Shantae game. Studio Trigger is one of the major anime powerhouses. Ni no Kuni, the video game / anime series, absolutely got them.
Hold on, I see what you trying to get into today. What you trying to get into?
What's that? What you got up?
What you trying to get into today?
That's supposed to mean something to me.
Y'all see he on that. You doing all right today, bro?
I am.
That's facts. But no, so like we were saying, Star Wars Vision looks amazing. It looks gorgeous. Like it makes you feel like Star Wars should have already been dipped their toe into the anime genre. Not only are they using, like you said, some of the most powerful powerhouse studios in anime all time, but just the simple fact that they're really it seems from what we see, it seems like they're really putting money into getting these good writers and getting some really good stories to be told in the Star Wars universe. And these are all original. Like nothing is gonna now probably gonna have some callbacks, but as far as like story wise and characters, it seems like it's gonna be original.
It looks like one of the stories will feature Boba Fett, but that's all.
Yeah,
that's the only ones that I've seen that explicitly features a classic Star Wars character.
What do you think? What do you think? What are you looking for most in this? Is it set pieces, story? What are you looking for most in this Star Wars Vision?
I'm looking forward to everything about it. Everything I've quite literally seen is some of the greatest anime period. The greatest the way it flows and whatnot. I'm just going to be honest, with the exception of things like, of course, My Hero, One Punch, now recently Demon Slayer, and a bunch of other animes that are from Japan. You know, a lot of these other American streaming service animes, with the exception of like Castlevania and Blood of Zeus, a lot of them have been ass in terms of their animation. I'm looking at you, Berserk. I'm looking at you. I forget the name of it, but it's one of the latest ones that Netflix is brought on to adapt and fund itself, and it's literally just moving images, not like animation moving like we were used to and accustomed to, but literally like god dang pictures that the frame is moving and it's not actually the characters moving within the frame. So to see this level of quality with anime, a genre that is oftentimes not given the reverence that it absolutely deserves, and not only getting that, but being attached to Star Wars, which a lot of anime is already inspired to one degree or another from Star Wars. And going back, George Lucas was originally inspired by Japanese culture with the Seven Samurai and those films. So it's a full circle now. It's a full circle. And I'm just happy now because one, it pissed off all of those Star Wars diehards who only wanted to watch Star Wars one way and one way over only. And I'm glad they're pissed because they deserve to be salty for being so asinine. And secondly, I want to point out that it's definitely it open. Hopefully, it knocks some of this traditionalist ideology from Star Wars the content. Because
speaking of that, do you think if it does well, will we see some of these potentially come to live action? Some of these same stories?
No, I don't think I don't think they will. I think that depending on what type of content we receive, you might see them referenced in like a cartoon or traditional cartoon, or maybe even a video game, depending on the popularity and how the rights work. But no, I think that they might try to, for the sake of maximizing their dollars, because I won't lie and say integrity, like they care about that in any way or shape or form. But I will say to maximize the dollar, they will definitely, if they ever revisit any of this stuff, it'll probably be in anime or manga form, and or video game form. But I don't think they'll try to transition into live action because of the Herculean task, as we've seen, to try to mimic that. But again, I think that this type of Star Wars content being heavily promoted and pushed is the perfect way to unoriginal trilogyify Star Wars, because of course the prequel trilogies tried to emulate that so much, and the Mandalorian, the other major Star Wars property, as well as the Bad Batch, they all take place in that whole era of the original trilogy at different points, but still that whole era. So I think going into anime, which is so stylistically different in visual and action style, I think that will remind folks that you can have Star Wars be high energy and frantic and frenetic and still have heart and depth and soul to it.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think that's a good point. I think definitely it's better than not better, but I think it's a time that we have a certain style due to the popularity of anime. I think that'll be a good starting off place to leave some of that old trilogy behind, not in a bad way, but to move forward and to build new stories and allow Star Wars to take on a new life. Because like you said, the Bad Batch, Clone Wars, all these other animated properties and shows, Mandalorian,
specifically the current stuff,
are set in that same that trilogy, like right before Rise of Skywalker and in between, so all of it's kind of set in that point. So you're constantly retreading. And I think with these anime Star Wars stories, it's going to allow people to see that we can do new Star Wars stories and they be great and be epic, where we don't have to keep calling back to these same characters, because Star Wars is set in a galaxy far, far away, and galaxy holds other planets, which we've seen in Star Wars. So to see new stories and to see new characters that can become fan favorites, I think is really cool, because it's been a lot of fan favorite characters that were introduced in other mediums. Most of them were video games, like Darth Revan, Star Killer, and now just recently, my guy from Fallen Order.
Yeah, but see the difference with those three characters, specifically two of the three. Darth Revan absolutely can still exist because he literally takes place before any of the primary Star Wars battles happen. So you can absolutely say Darth Revan exists, maybe retool his origin slightly to make it more form fitting to the current, mythos, but ultimately you can still use it. Now, the problem with Cal and Star Killer, Jalen, shout outs to both of them and their actors. They are dope and are very fully really committed to Star Wars as a whole. But the problem with those two, at least in trying to emulate exactly who they are, not saying that they can't show up in a new light, but trying to get a one-to-one is difficult because their characters and story is very reliant on their specific eras. And again, with Cap and plus they kind of are the same characters, but are on two different spectrums. With Star Killer, he started off as an assassin for Vader, a secret assassin, and then he grew into the guy who helped form the Rebel Alliance, which kind of murks up the timeline, because we know, if we see in Rogue One, we know that the Rebel Alliance was going on beforehand. And Cal is similar because again, he's also joining at this early stage and is trying to, be there at this early stage in everything, the empire and all of this stuff. Now, I will never say that they can't be fit into the story arc. I just don't think that, and I kind of hate to say it framing like this because the Mandalorian kind of disproves it, but in the same way, it needs to be said because at some point we do need to move past it because we already have.
Mm-hmm.
They only can it's hard to justify their existence in the Finn Poe Rey era, and it's also would seem redundant to put them in a post Luke Leia Han era. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
because both of their greatest character arcs are because of the absence of those characters in the original trilogy, right? Because
BJ, what up? Appreciate you for tuning in, bro.
You can't have Luke and Leia actively run around when Cal and Starkiller are on their respective missions because either they conflict in Starkiller's place or they give it redundance with Cal. And
well, I wasn't saying it as far as having them come back in these stories. I was just saying a lot of times Star Wars has thrived with using characters all like after you've established that Republic and Luke, Leia, Han, and all of them. A lot of times Star Wars has thrived showing that they don't have to use those specific characters to make good, compelling stories. That's all I was saying.
True, but I also worry that of rehash and not just rehash, redundancy as well.
Yeah,
because there's a difference between the two, and I do feel like both of them will operate in each of those separate categories if they aren't really. And again, specifically with Cal, we don't know if they're gonna. It seems likely. I think they even confirmed it, so I may just be speaking conjecture here. But his story apparently isn't done in that particular side universe, however you want to quantify it. And honestly, as much as I fucking hate to say it, Starkiller no longer fits in any sort of Star Wars continuity that is to matter, because we know now that Star Wars is putting out with the exception of Fallen Order, maybe that can be changed.
Yeah,
but we know with most of the Star Wars content, it's meant to fit into everything that's happened before and after. Might be little tweaks here and there because something might be in a comic and you might want to streamline it a little bit to make it into live action and vice versa. But more or less everything that happens in the greater Star Wars continuity, it technically happened in the live action fleshy version, and Starkiller simply can't exist because
unless they bring him in and change up his storyline.
But then that's not Starkiller. I mean, like the way that people remember it, you can't even call him Starkiller because that's Starkiller base, and it doesn't make sense for that to, it wouldn't be the first time Star Wars did something nonsensical, but considering they're trying to more or less do good by some of their, weary fans, I'm pretty sure they're going to try to avoid that. But just from a conceptual level, insanely powerful Force user who knew about
Trail. What's up? Appreciate you tuning in, Trail.
Who knew about Vader and Sidious and actually can go toe to toe with them, and being sidelined for any given amount of time, which is kind of going back. And just a quick aside, going back and I watched some of the Force Awakens 2 cutscenes because I never played that game, and where they were going with that story before the Disney buyout of Star Wars, that set itself up for a very, very, very interesting alternate universe. And I think if they would have done a number 3, I think they would have gone ahead and had Luke and Leia be playable, because it would have just been such a departure from the mainline universe that you could afford to do that. But my core point is that it's hard to bring in those characters because of how similar their story arcs are to a lot of characters. And if you were to bring them in, they would have to be so completely different that they might as well not even be those characters at all.
Well, yeah, I guess so. I can see where you're coming from. Like I said, my point wasn't to say that they needed to put Starkiller in the universe. I was just saying that Star Wars would benefit now at this point in their tenure. They will benefit from doing more original stories and stop going back to the Skywalker legacy and stuff like that. I'm thinking personally that they were maybe close to that with Rey, but when it failed miserably from a lot of people.
They never were, because there was never a plan. There was never a plan, so we can't say that they were trying to, because
it seemed to me personally, it felt like they were trying to wrap up the Skywalker saga, but they didn't do it justice to a lot of people. So
it was very much like, and this is like what they've said since then, what everyone has said, was that it was literally just fly by your pants, just seeing just going off of what idea would have been the most compelling. That's why all three movies of the sequel trilogy are so vastly different from one another, because it was never established who Rey was going to end up being, who Finn was going to end up being, Kylo, etc., etc.
Well,
because
my point was, though, that they need to do more content. They need to do new stories. Leave the Skywalker trilogy saga where it's at. We get it. I think Visions will help them benefit more by showing them that these new stories can stand really strong, and I'm all for it. Vision looks amazing, like by any means. It might be some of the best Star Wars I've seen, period, and that's a big thing. I love anime, love Star Wars, and I'm very excited for it. Super hype. QMG, this sounds, I couldn't. You're hyped for it, I'm pretty sure, right?
I am incredibly and insanely hyped. I am expecting it to be the talk of the town, legitimately so. Y'all know me, I'm very quick to bash a Disney or bash a WB at the drop of a hat when they do stupid shit, but you also know that I'm very quick to give them praise when they absolutely deserve it. And I genuinely feel that this Star Wars Visions is going to be another example of evil corporations doing what they doing, that type of thing where it's hard to not point out that they legitimately did what they had to do, and I'm an anime head, as you can see by the fit, by the drip, you already know that your boy is an anime dude, so that's right up my wheelhouse. You know what I'm talking about? So hey, it is what it is, and it ain't what it ain't.
But speaking of it is what it is, the premiere was for Shang-Chi last week. Yes. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which will be coming out September the 2nd, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, September the 2nd. It's sometime early September. And I definitely wanted to talk about it because they said a couple things, and I've seen a couple things that are kind of making me kind of conflicted about this movie. First being, they released a couple days ago the small half of the train fight scene from the trailer that we've been seeing, choreography fight scene for that. Yeah. And it looked really good. I was really surprised how good it actually looked. It seemed like they were really putting a lot of time into the choreography on these fights. I'm not going to really get into the whole Aquafina controversy. We'll save that for another day. But the fight scene in the not the train, I'm sorry, on the bus, it looked really good, and it made me feel really good about this movie more than I have. But then they go right and back and set me aback when they have scenes where they have a character talking about the 10 rings are literally the strongest instruments in the universe. And it makes me feel some type of way. So QMG,
first of all, I keep telling you to stop taking stuff at face value.
Hey, I can't.
I'm sorry. I literally tell you that every time.
I'm sorry, I can't help it.
Because a character might say it, you got to use your own common sense and your own understanding.
And Marvel has showed me that when people say stuff like that, they try to do that. Or try to make that.
No,
when they say a character is the strongest character, they try to push them to be the strongest character.
That's not. Again, you can't confuse. You got use your common sense.
And they made it. They made a real big thing to say that the 10 rings were the strongest things in the universe, and then transition over into like this is the new phase of Marvel.
Well, it's not, because you know it's not, because you already know who the biggest bad is, because you've seen Loki. It can't possibly be that, or else Thanos would have went for the 10 rings and not the damn Infinity Gauntlet. It's like,
so why would they say that?
Because it's to sell you on how significant. And thirdly, we don't even know if that's going to end up in the final movie. It could just be trailer redubbing,
trailer fodder.
Yeah. So I don't know why you
go for that.
I keep telling
official. They really made a point of having that part in the movie. Like,
and Age of Ultron made you think it was going to be a very serious Avengers film where they almost lost,
and it wasn't.
So
it really wasn't. Really, nothing came from that except Civil War. Like, literally, it was a whole movie to set up Civil War.
And even then, Civil War wasn't emotional like that.
Nah, it wasn't at all.
But my point that I'm getting at is that stop taking stuff at face value with the MCU. Now, about Shang-Chi, about everything else you said. Now, I told you last week that there were some things I saw that made me go, yeah, this film is looking like it's going to be. I told you that. Now, it wasn't specifically this, but it does. I'm not surprised that people took. I mean, just from watching the early trailers when they showed the fighting, I thought that I really was surprised with it. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I was very surprised about it. You know, I was very much on board with what they were going to be doing, and I keep trying to tell people, you know, this type of content can be Marvel saving grace. Now, I do think it's a very, very, very huge mistake to have this be theatrical only, especially with the government already preparing folks to get a third booster shot for the Delta variant, which is telling you already that there's a very high chance that things might be slowing down. And even if they don't officially, people will be taking the precautions and not going ahead. Now, I had my V card taken from me this week, and I drove fast.
Good choice of word.
And I was out with family, and we drove past plenty of movie theaters that were empty. Nobody's in a rush to go back to these theaters. They aren't. We've been saying this has been the truth for months, and people have denied it or tried to flip flop to suit their narrative of the Suicide Squad. But
which was a good movie.
Sure. But the point is not having this have a Disney Plus availability because y'all pissed off Scarlett Johansson because y'all wouldn't at least refigure her contract to so she got paid a lot of money for this, which again, I definitely, even though I don't really care for Scarlett as a actor or a person, I will say that she is in the right for this because of the simple fact that of all of the films that had to deal with the pandemic, they delayed this movie the most.
You just came hard at ScarJo.
Fuck Scarlett, but it's
man. What?
I say what I said, but that's not my point.
That's wild.
That's not my point. Moving on.
This
is not me. I'm fighting for my life.
Moving on, because I'm about to get to my point.
You can't just gloss over that, dude.
I absolutely can and will. My point.
That is wild. Shout out ScarJo, bro. Shout out ScarJo.
Yeah. Okay. The point is they delayed Black Widow approximately 3 times throughout the course of the pandemic.
Yeah, this is true.
And within those 3 times, they had ample opportunity to reconfigure Scarlett's contract if they deemed correctly. Now, this is the only part where Disney is in the right, but this is common sense. So it's really not even being in the right, but rather using your God-given sense. You know, the pandemic would affect the box office of Black Widow. So they could have easily said, look, this one-time deal, this is your last movie because this was her last contractually obligated movie.
Yep.
We're going to just overpay you. We're going to compensate you because of this unlikely circumstance that we were not prepared for. So therefore, we can maximize the viewership for this film, and you still get paid like this was going to make potentially $1 billion, which, considering this is an MCU film, there's always that possibility.
It can make $1 billion. Fact.
Now, the fact that they did not do that within this time, that definitely is a problem. Now, of course, you have other Disney movies and other movies, period, that you have actors now trying to do the same thing. Are they as valid as Scarlett's? In my opinion, some are, some aren't. And then you also have Jungle Cruise, The Rock, the star of the Jungle Cruise, who said that, he's not going to do that because The Rock has always been the person who's just kind of shrugged his shoulders and understood situations like that. So that's not.
How much did Jungle Cruise make?
Jungle Cruise made a size by pandemic standards or just general standards. I'll say it did very, very well. It did very, very well. And from what I've heard, there's nothing you gonna say about Jungle Cruise. No, because it was from everything I've heard, and I've heard it from a lot of people, it was a very good action adventure rom. Nobody was expecting it to be King Lear, but as far as the Emily
Jungle Cruise, everybody.
From a Rock and Emily Blunt movie where they
exactly my point,
where it's fun, where they say funny things and punch people in the face, and it's based off of a Disney ride. It definitely did it what it was supposed to do. Not everything is supposed to do that. And like I said, I've already spoken about my feelings on Black Widow, how it was not offensive, but definitely underwhelmed me. And I just got done telling you that Scarlett Johansson should get her money. So
you did. So, in all fairness, you did vouch for her for getting her money, but you still spoke blasphemy.
Yeah, because she's an asshole who bigs up rapists and tries to take and thinks she can just play any minority under the sun because she's an actor. But that's neither here nor there. We're talking about Black Widow stuff. And again, I do have to say this as well. Disney and Black Widow, they were promoting this film like theaters were back. They were trying to, in all actuality, theaters are back. Not literally. I mean, figuratively, that will get people to understand to go back to the film. This was when Black Widow was scheduled to come out. You had the Fast 9 promotions, you had the Black Widow promotions talking about films are back. You can go to the movies again, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. And I mean, this is more for the Suicide Squad point, but Black Widow does count because this is about box office at the end of the day. But when you look at how Fast 9 was treated as a smashing success, and in all actuality, of all of the movies that have come out so far this year in this pandemic, there has been about 4 or 5 films that got a dual release and did amazing. Space Jam 2, everybody get Godzilla up versus Kong. Woo! Godzilla was going crazy, but Kong that guy. I'm not certain how many outlets did a dual release for F9. I'm not even sure if it did. I'll double check. But F9 absolutely was one of them, and Jungle Cruise and Black Widow was another one. Those were the others. That's the 5 movies that, as far as box office within the pandemic, those weren't just paltry numbers. They did rack in a typical, not the super inflated post Avengers box office, but a typical successful box office run where they made their money back. What about Shang-Chi though? Because we were talking about Shang-Chi, and I definitely don't want to gloss over that's what we're talking about. But Shang-Chi. To go back, because I didn't bring up that point. Actually, thank you for reminding me, because I was going to lose that point. Shang-Chi doesn't really have a chance. It really doesn't. If this, let's say nothing changes, no, Shang-Chi won't be seen in theaters. It won't. Now, they might, to do right, they might pay the cast an absorbent amount, hopefully, and then release it early for free on Disney Plus to compensate for the potential lack of box office. 100% doubt I 100% doubt for the fact that it's their first go around and they know how Marvel is when they rolling. But I feel like they're gonna understand the climate, and they're gonna understand the market, and they're gonna understand that, especially if Shang-Chi does well as far as critics go, but they're gonna stay on board. But nah, because Disney and Marvel don't care about critical reception anymore. I'm talking about the actors in general. And you think they're gonna can Shang-Chi? No, what I'm saying is that if Scarlett Johansson is willing to sue over that absolutely empowers actors to follow suit. But I don't feel like other actors are going to feel compelled to do so. Well, that's just like how you said The Rock didn't feel compelled to do so. Actually, there's actually been a lot of actors, Kurt and Elizabeth Olsen. Goddamn Emma Stone. Gerard. Yes, those are all individuals who work at. But that doesn't mean every actor, though. It don't have to be literally every actor. And I don't feel like the Shang-Chi actors are going to do that. They absolutely do. You not understand that Chinese actors in general this day and age are always making sure that their people are handled correctly. And but that doesn't necessarily mean those specific actors are going to do that. You got to again, let's use the situation that we have and what has passed, and let's take it to its logical conclusion. if they understand that people are taking sides on this subject, and they understand that they understand from a business, because make no mistake about it, Disney is not going to they're not going to let this go any further without them rectifying the situation, because they don't want that bad PR, because they still have one more Marvel movie to put out by year's end. So they're going to try to rectify this as soon as possible and make the party that they neglected happy. And they're not going to risk it with Shang-Chi, because it's going to be 10 times worse. Because with Black Widow, a lot of people feel the same way about Scarlet like I do, but at least they respect the business aspect of it. So that's why they
get your money, Queen.
So
get your money.
So that's why they're rallying. That's why they're rallying behind her.
Yeah.
When you take it to if they do the same thing to Shang-Chi, that's racial. That's the racial component now added to it. And considering how Hollywood constantly, I'm basically about to spell it out for you what Disney doesn't want to happen. Hollywood has constantly chased the Chinese market. And then when a Chinese-led film happens, you basically do nothing to promote it. So basically, you're trying to get this country's dollars, but you're not respecting this country's culture and its people enough to treat them with the same reverence of this changing landscape.
And folks, that's America.
So Disney as a corporation, who literally in this day and age moves heaven and earth to make themselves look like the number one progressive and forward thinking and general just nice company, even though we all know that's a lie. They're going to make sure they're going to make sure if anything happens with this movie, they already got the cushions in place. And if they have to eat crow and pay people an amount of money to make sure they don't follow suit with Scarlet and put a black eye on their number one franchise, they're going to do it.
Well, then to go back to what you said before, then how can Shang-Chi not make it if it does critical success, but doesn't make enough money, but they are already planning on paying all these actors? Then how is it doomed to fail if they're going to make sure they cushion the blow?
And here's how it's going to be doomed to fail. Because 2 of the 3 things are likely. The third thing that's the one that's not likely is them putting it on Disney Plus early. If they don't do that, because as of right now, there is, and that's the wrong calendar, but it's 2 weeks out. It comes out September 3rd, so it literally comes out
on there. I'll say the second.
It literally comes out on September 3rd. So that means that they would have to change their whole film distribution in 2 weeks, and that's a no-go. They could try it and they might do it, but that's going to be a large string controversy. And like I said, if they don't secure that these actors get a sizable payday larger than what they would get inherently to basically hush money, and so they won't complain about it, then that means they're going to they have to just go ahead and handle the paying of it and doing that and getting that out of the way, because they cannot risk these actors not getting paid. They can't risk the actors not being paid and being upset that the movie was thrown out when people are unsure.
Well, I just don't. What I'm saying, I don't understand how you could say it's going to fail if they're going to take all the precautions to make sure that if the movie is good and people like the movie, whether it makes a lot of money or not.
You're confusing you're confusing like I'm talking about the people. If nobody sees it, that's what I'm talking about.
Well, I'm pretty sure everybody who has Disney Plus is going to see it.
But if they put it on Disney Plus in any sizable time, if they do currently right now, it's 3 months. It's 3 months without premiere access before a theatrical release Disney movie that's not animation makes it to Disney Plus.
So my thing is, and I'm asking because you would know. So as of right now, there has been no talks to be on Disney Plus day one launch.
Absolutely not. They said they made that very clear. That
can hurt it very much.
That's what I've been saying.
Yeah. Okay. I know. I was under the impression that it was going to do dual.
No,
because you had brought up Black Widow and still not doing good, even though it was a dual release.
I made it clear. That was the first thing I said. That Shang-Chi is theater release only. That the only way it would end up on Disney Plus is if and I'm certain that they passed the deadline threshold, is if they said that they're making it a dual release. But if they say dual release, they would have to make the dual release free. They couldn't possibly charge.
Well, that ain't gonna happen.
I mean, that I'm not saying I'm giving you.
I was saying, yeah, I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying they're not gonna make it free.
But they're inevitably going to have to do that. That's inevitably when it comes out in what? That would make
2 weeks.
No, I mean, when it comes to Disney Plus, it would be January, unless they shorten which I don't know if they can do that or not, unless they shorten the release window of when it hits Disney Plus. Shang-Chi's entire box office theatrical run is very much
in jeopardy.
And again, I need to clarify this. You know, if we're talking international, if it's secured a Chinese release, which I absolutely has not heard, which might be due to some of the things in the movie that I do know about, then you know that's another problem. If it gets if it has a sizable international release, then that's another component that Disney can rest its. Well, I can't even say that because Disney has never really cared about international releases outside of the Avengers movies. When it comes to their mainline MCU films, they don't care about the international box office.
So are you hype about Shang-Chi after all that? Is Shang-Chi enough?
You brought up I said I've been saying on the show for weeks now that
I'm talking about like after because these are the first full-length trailers that we've seen, like really strong.
I've seen more, and like I've said, I still won't get into it because those are leaks and those are spoilers.
Then why'd you say that then?
Because
there's no point of saying.
Because I don't have to get into I don't have to get into specifics to let my opinion be known.
No, but you said because those are leaks. You know?
Yeah, because you were going to ask.
No, I didn't. No,
I said you were because you
do
that all the time. So you were going to ask me. So, but
y'all see him today? See how he coming at me?
I mean,
hey, what he trying to get into?
I mean,
in the comments, let me know what he's trying to get into.
I know how you get down, but my point is that I've always been excited for Shang-Chi. I've never seen anything that would make me not see it. I wish we were in a better situation where it was acceptable to go to the theaters and whatnot. I'm not going to go to the theaters. I've been contemplating it on and off if I do or don't, but I really just as of right now, I'm not entirely certain that it's a good idea. No shade to anybody who does. You know, it's your life, live it. I just ask you be safe for yourself and for others. But I know a lot of people feel the same way, and a lot of people are going to exercise their caution when it comes to stuff like that. So that's going to hurt them. And I just hope that they get a backup plan for the actor's sake. And I hope they get a backup plan for the people who want to see its sake.
Well, Shang-Chi, like I said, right now I'm at a crossroads on whether I'm going to see it or not, whether I'm excited for it or not. Yeah, from what I've seen, it's like has me like on a spectrum, like as far as like on a ladder, like I don't know whether I'm gonna like it or not. It seems like it pulls me in with a great fight scene. Then I see some CGI or hear something they say, and it Debbie Downs me. But I'm gonna give it a shot, give it a try. The first full Asian American Marvel hero. Definitely got to give him a shot. I think it'll be cool, especially if the action is really good. If they can really change my perception on the story of Shang-Chi and him as a character with this movie, I'll be ready to see it. And I'm fully invested in Marvel right now. Marvel has me fully invested. Everything they've put out ever since the beginning with WandaVision of this new era has been good to me. There hasn't been anything that I didn't like in Marvel so far. So right now I'm really excited for it. But with the highest of highs, all the highest of praise, I have to go down to the lowest of lows with a new full trailer that should have came out, which also has me thinking maybe it'll be decent, but on a lower level is the Eternals. The Eternals had a full trailer release this week, and might I say they did add a lot, but at the same time, I'm still not very excited. It's seeming that they're setting some big things up. If you know anything about the Eternal story, which we talked about, seems like they're setting some things up, and everybody's talking about the Celestials, and they look cool, but they're not really hyping me up. I definitely want to talk about the Eternals because to me, it's probably the weakest property coming out in the next couple of years. And I definitely want to know where you sit at because I know you've been very hard with that breath. It definitely already lets me know how you feel about Angelina Jolie and the Eternals. So let me know because I'm not invested or I'm not all in on this movie at all. I want to see The Black Knight though.
I'm just gonna say this and to be done with it.
Yeah. Did the new trailer excite you though?
I'm just gonna say this and I'm gonna be done with it. I'm gonna be watching it to see if how much of Aaron Johnson's New God scripts have been used to make it. And my God, has Zack Snyder influenced everybody's decisions on superhero movies since 2013's Man of Steel? And that's all I'm going to say about that.
What makes you say the Zack Snyder comparison?
Because everything that I've seen from Icarus is literally, and I can show you a tweet in about 30 seconds or so.
Yeah,
that basically shows how much of an influence.
Do you feel like it was rightfully used or disrespectfully used? Do you feel like it was stolen?
It's the fact that one, I will never ever accuse Chloe Zhao of stealing, least of all stealing for a superhero film. Chloe Zhao is a legitimately God tier auteur director who, if you've seen, she recently just won an Academy Award for her most recent film.
So just because of her tenure doesn't.
So let me finish. And absolutely, because of her tenure and her quality, no, she's not going. She herself absolutely would not. And I'm facetious when I say these things because I don't want people to assume I'm talking about the director, because no, none of these directors who actually have talent would ever do that. And if anything, they would be legitimately inspired, which is no shame at all, to take cues from other films and insert it into there and adding.
Okay,
their own
so you're
flavor.
saying that's what's going on.
But what I'm saying is that other individuals who handles those things, because for those who don't know, Marvel directors do not 100% control the direction of their films. Normally, CGI and Feige dictate some of the bigger moments in the film. And as for those who don't know, this wouldn't be the first time that they've taken from DC properties when their CGI division. And most importantly, a lot of, if not every action scene in an MCU movie is done years in advance before a director is even chosen, and they've actually shot any piece of real film. So all of that stuff probably was done before Chloe was officially attached to the film, especially considering how quickly they put that idea into motion. So yeah, that's what I mean about that.
Okay, so you think she just got inspired by Zack Snyder?
I'm saying that the VFX guy who did those scenes absolutely is a Zack Snyder stan.
Okay.
And that they basically did everything.
So Eternals, though, as far as
I said,
know?
I literally told you all.
I wasn't done with my statement. Damn. What you got going on? Why are you trying to come at me today, bro? Why are you trying to? Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
And mind you, those are taken from two different movies featuring Superman. So,
yeah. So, that makes a lot of sense after you just showed me that. But no, what I was saying was, as far as Eternals go, how much impact do you think they're going to have on the MCU? And do you think they're going to be a long-lasting faction in the MCU moving forward?
Probably, and I do mean probably, about the same amount as I've spoken on a minor reference to mutants that, if you aren't versed, might go over your head, and then a website have to bluntly and unenthusiastically explain because they know just as little as you do, but they looked at a Marvel wiki page. And maybe going off of the comics, and that was older comics, more recent comics might make this statement moot, but maybe have Gemma Chan's and the Irish guy Icarus's character, have them be more on the forefront, since Gemma Chan's character specifically has been on the Avengers, so she more than likely will be used in the future. That, and I don't think actors, and I could be wrong, like Jolie and Selma Hayek with the Clyde the Frog would do consistent MCU films, but I could be wrong on either of their parts. I will very well be content with that.
I don't even know one of the Eternals' name.
I mean, there's Gilgamesh, there's Icarus, there's Cersei, there's Sprite, and that was about it, because everything else is not. But whether that's, as the MCU have proven time and time again, whether these characters or not, that's not indicted on how far they're going. Yeah. Well, that's questionable in of itself. But
because Iron Man wasn't a big character before Robert Downey Jr. put on the suit.
Yeah, but my point isn't if you like them, but how much they use them. And
you don't think all the Eternals are going to get, like, as a group? They're supposed to be a group faction. You don't think they're all going to get ample enough screen time?
No, I just don't think they're going to be used. All of them will be used because, like I've said over the past couple of weeks, obviously the mutants are the next big thing as far as world expanding.
Speaking of mutants, not to cut you off, but in the Eternals,
I said that earlier, that the Eternals are that they're going to have a allusion to the mutants that will be.
Yeah, they had it. I was saying they had it in the trailer though. After the snap,
No, not that. That's not. Again, that's not.
Or are you talking about the three races, the Deviants, the Eternals, and that last one, which are the mutants?
No, the Eternals. For those who don't know, the Eternals' whole point on being on Earth is to jumpstart the evolution. They They are the canonical creators of the X gene.
Yeah, it was three races.
No, the three races have nothing to do with it. The Deviants are the quote unquote devils,
the ones they experiment, the Celestials experimenting on of the lack of the genes.
Not the lack. It's not just the X gene. The X gene is not dictated on. It's the Deviants and Eternals. They're side by side. It's not. Celestial.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying.
So it's like the Deviants lack the proper tools to make the X gene. That's what that is.
That's what I said.
No, you said like they were like
the guys. There's the Celestials created both the Deviants and the Eternals.
Yeah, but I'm saying that. But my point is that
I tell you about ninjas.
What I'm telling you is that that stupid theory that the Snap created the goddamn X-Men is false, because if the Eternals are
in the literal
trailer
for the Eternals,
that's not what that's saying.
Well, we'll see.
What they actually were saying, and what pisses me off, but I told you this after we got done watching the fucking movie, was that the Snap actually did open up the multiverse and whatnot, and the Mysterio line was just a coincidence to what the fuck actually
So my
happened.
thing is, how did it open up the universe when we just seen that Loki and Sylvie opened up the multiverse?
Because I was reminded over the past week that Scarlet Witch is a nexus point. And that those things do have influences on the multiverse, not created or open anything, but they influence how, which might also tie into another spoiler, but we will talk about that later on and on later episodes when it becomes more and more relevant. But basically, what I'm saying is the Snap is like Wanda; they're both Nexus events that affect the multiverse. The Scarlet Witch is one. Theoretically, from what they were saying, the Infinity Gauntlet was another, which is why they are so dangerous and why people want to make sure they are not at full power, because they can upend everything.
Well, yeah, I have to do more research on that, because obviously from Loki, we've seen that the multiverse didn't branch off until they killed
the timeline.
He Who Remains.
The timeline. We gotta make sure we make that distinction. The timeline branched off. The multiverse already existed. So you're going to make me bring up the point I'm trying to hold off on bringing until they make it more relevant, because I don't want to confuse anybody. But yeah, let me just. But all I will say is that there may have been more than one He Who Remains. there may have been more than one He Who Remains who did the same thing.
Well, it's not obvious, but
and I don't mean
variants. Once they brought up the thought of variants, there could possibly be more than one He Who Remains.
But I mean with the same idea. I don't mean obviously another Kang because we know that. But I'm saying that
they're talking about there was one. Well, I did see this theory that maybe that another He Who Remains influenced Thanos to get the gauntlet, if that's what you're alluding to, because of the.
What I'm saying is that
Nexus event.
What I'm saying is that there was more than one Kang / He Who Remains who wanted to stop the war, and and what they basically agreed to is that whenever somebody finds out the gig, we sell them this story. This is a sacred timeline. This is something that cannot be branched. That because you'll invite all the others. What I'm saying is that there are multiple sacred timelines that are not connected to the multiverse or timelines, and basically, it's basically a retirement for the Kangs who no longer want to be in the endless war. They go off and they create sacred timelines so they no longer have to deal with it.
So basically, what you're saying. Like there's a whole, like say there's a strand that hasn't been broken off yet because they're all universes in their own universe. So they're just sitting somewhere and somebody tries to control that specific strand and keep it from branching off.
Right. Because they're tired of fighting into this.
So they can't traverse to another strand or another branch in a timeline because they're only controlling their one strand.
Maybe that the individual He Who Remains can, but more or less that this is because it doesn't and this is like the most unbelievable part of this theory, but I think that every and obviously the MCU, all Marvel movies are a sacred timeline that an individual Kang runs.
And every Marvel movie, all at this point is like 24, 25, 26 now?
No, not MCU films. I'm saying X-Men universe, Blade, Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, and the MCU. Those are all sacred timelines. That would also explain why, and this might be me super big braining and theorizing, but I'm going to say it anyway. That would also explain why the effects of Into the Spider-Verse were so drastic as it was, because what they did was completely by accident, which fits the Spider-Man motif because Peter's always doing shit he has no business doing and is completely unrelated of people who knows what that is. That would explain why New York was going to become a black hole, because they did it so left field of involving Kang, and why, spoilers for Into the Spider-Verse, why Miguel has to get involved, because it's something that none of them have any depth of perception of, because it's
so why didn't we see a Kang the Conqueror in that movie?
I mean, obviously it probably was. I'm theorizing.
Obviously, yeah, I get it, but you're really diving into that Kang had a hand or multiple Kang. So why we didn't see a Kang, because it did get out of hand at some point where you have over several Spider-Man in one converged.
Okay, to further go into some theorizing mode, because Kang ultimately knows from watching all of the other Kangs. Let's just say, for example, for the sake of this theory, that while some Kangs might be unaware, there are a bunch of Kangs that know that ultimately, if Marvel heroes are united, they can beat him, right?
Okay.
And let's say that Spider-Man, being the best of the best, because Spider people have traversed the multiverse previously, if he got their attention or tried to take them out, he would lose and risk run the risk of these multiverse Spider people now trying to warn everybody, and that can just fuck up their whole game. So it's better to let them do it, because obviously they're going to try to close it. They're not going to try to expand it like Sylvie did.
Well, they couldn't, because they were getting hurt by it.
But no, my point is that they're not even going to think to just let it spread out.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to think to close everything back up and everything flow. So Kang just going to okay, I'm just going to, the classic supervillain, I'm just going to sit back and let them do this because everything's going to go back to normal in my way. Type deal.
Yeah.
And this is also and I'll say this, and this is again me theorying with zero evidence, but as I'm talking myself into it. This also can explain why there are so many different timelines in the core X-Men universe, because they are the only ones, they are the first ones really to deal with time travel in Days of Future Past, which I've told you before is one of the few perfect ways of time traveling, because it's not physically removing yourself, you're mentally taking yourself back to, so you can potentially cut yourself off from your original timeline and then be in a new one, which is a difference than what the Avengers did in the Endgame. But that can explain why it's always so chaotic in the X-Men universes, because they are like, there's no way that it's just out there. There's so many branches happening at this point that it's hard to maintain. And going back to what I just said about too many heroes teaming up, Kang knows the X-Men are some of the most dangerous and successful superheroes. So if he just tries to show up and like, okay, we're gonna fuck it up, he runs the risk of them absolutely getting it up. So it's better, and I'm guessing he probably thinks that because there's so many timelines where the X-Men lose or something happens to the mutants, it's absolutely better to just let them do their thing and whatnot. So
I don't know. I have to do more research.
I mean, we got to look at it like this, and you brought this point up many a times. If this is the multiverse, and if certain things about certain trailers or properties is true, and how they bring back characters and things like that, and any of that type deal, then why can't we surmise that there have been other attempts, or we could, because that's ultimately something Marvel might not literally, because I sincerely doubt everything I just said was literal to the T of what they're planning, but that could be their thought process, that all of everything we've seen so far in other universes, other, cinematic universes, those were sacred timelines. Now peep this, because this just came to me. What if this is actually what Kangs want, or a Kang? Let's centralize it. Let's not use the Kangs, but a Kang. Let's say Kang is the reason why the Marvel's universe was never whole, because a Kang maybe have seen the comic book Kang get his ass whooped by the Marvel universe so many times, and he knows that he stands a better chance at succeeding if there's a universe where the X-Men and the Fantastic Four and the Avengers don't exist at the same time. And it's easier to control or keep them apart, because you run the risk at total failure.
That could happen if the simple fact Marvel thought like that, but as we've seen, they don't think like that. And we've seen a lot of times that they don't want to ever think. Like, we've even said this on multiple shows, and you even said this, that they don't think like how the fans think. They don't think to a certain level where we would think that this multiversal stuff could work.
You're right.
I
did say that.
Not only because of contractual stuff like with Sony and stuff like that, but just for the simple fact that they never think as deep as we do. And a lot of times they say they're fans, diehard fans, but more time than not, they're not.
Quick aside, I don't know why I thought I was wearing my Dark Side shirt, and I was looking for my Justice League patch, and then I'm like, no, I'm wearing my Dragon Ball GT shirt. I'm wild today. You're right. I did say all of those things. And you're right. I still, to an extent, mean those things. But you want to know the one thing that has made me take a couple of steps back on that statement?
What's up?
On how well WandaVision and Loki was, specifically with this concept, and how committed they seem. We could talk about Ralph Boner being a complete dud and no Mephisto, even though it looked like they were completely setting that up. But when it comes to the multiverse stuff, they have not dropped the ball yet.
What multiverse stuff did WandaVision do after we just talked about this?
Well, again, the fact that we disagree so vehemently and we both made good points shows that there is enough evidence to a multiverse. Whether you're right or I'm right about the specifics, we can't deny that the multiverse was absolutely something that was being influenced or referenced in that scene. We might disagree on how it was implemented, but make no mistake, the multiverse was at play in that whole sequence, and we already know what Loki did.
Mm-hmm.
So they haven't dropped the ball yet with this concept. They might, but as of right now, if I'm going to be fair and treat them fairly, I have to acknowledge that they have thought this shit out. And again, going back to what we believe we will see in Spider-Man and in Doctor Strange too, this is a very fucking real thing that they can go in, like a direction they can go in, and it wouldn't make sense. Again, this is all theories with zero evidence of this happening, and I'm not expecting y'all to take it seriously. I'm not, and I'm definitely saying temper your expectations, but just thinking about the concept of a sacred timeline, how manipulative Kang has been, how far ahead he is, and the fact that we're now going to get the X-Men and the Fantastic Four to complete Marvel, I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm not expecting it to be Kang designed he manipulated, not designed, because I'm not going to say that he created all of this, but he certainly manipulated everything. So the path of least resistance, that's the phrase. He took the path of least resistance instead of trying to conquer the timeline with multiple universes of Avengers, X-Men, Fantastic Four, Avengers, X-Men, Fantastic Four, Avengers, X-Men, Fantastic Four. This particular Kang did all he could to segment them so they cannot be at full force to stop him. And it worked. But we're going to see it being undone. Or maybe
supposedly.
Not. Or maybe not. That's my theory.
Facts.
A game theory. See,
I wasn't a game theory.
But I knew you were expecting me to say that, so I said it.
But with that being said, like I tell everybody, appreciate everybody for tuning in. You guys, we don't really have nothing too much to talk about. That was a good theory.
This energy drink did not really do anything.
Guys, definitely go ahead and give us a like, a comment on Facebook, YouTube. You already know. QMG, is there anybody you want to shout before we get on up out of here?
Shout outs to my granny and Moochie who came and helped me get vaccinated. And bumped around with me for these last couple of days. I really love y'all and appreciate y'all kicking it and being down here with me. And
Facts.
I always love seeing y'all. Thank you.
Yeah, you got anything coming up on Multiversity or anything you want to talk about before we get on up out of here?
We will be talking about corporate bootlicking and why you never give these corporations a cookie, which you already know because this is a phrase I use very regularly here. And we'll be talking about that because a lot of folks are trying to pretend like these corporations don't suck, ironically enough. And while you absolutely should or could, I'm never going to tell you guys should anymore, could praise them when they do right from a content perspective, you absolutely could. See, I was going to go renege. I probably shouldn't have even said it like that. Basically go upside their heads at any and all given points when it's absolutely valid. That's what I gotta say. Shout outs to the MD fam. Shout out to my guys. And yeah, well, shout out to them and keep it G. You already know where every week me and my crew, Danita and D-Man, keep our eyes and ears to the streets for everything geek. We'll be doing our podcast tomorrow and we will be talking more about what if. We'll be talking more about this stuff that we just talked about, Shang-Chi and the Eternals. We'll definitely be talking more about that. So y'all tune in at 7:40 Central. Oh, you already know on the Quniverse Network on YouTube. Tune into that. But with that being said, is there anything else before we get on out of here, Kamani? This is a Multiversity, so we don't have any enemies that I can subliminally say something very, very, very over the top about. So all I will say is that I was going to buy Avengers for the PS5 today, but we don't have enough space. And I really want to play the Black Panther stuff because a couple of my newts on Twitter got a PS5 now and they play that. So I wanted to play that with them. So I'm trying to figure out how to finagle that so I can play it. So once I do,
you can play it on the PS4.
I want that shit.
And with that being said, thank y'all for tuning in. This was Into the Quniverse. I'm Q.
Oh, and also one more goddamn thing. Call of Duty Vanguard sucks. Just from the principle that
I'm actually very excited for the championship heal mode. It looks pretty interesting.
You literally just got done telling me that you thought it's up too.
Yeah, but the champion heal mode literally they revealed it either yesterday or today.
What's that?
Interesting.
What's it?
Where it's two teams of 2v2 or 3v3, 8 teams on 6 maps, 60-second maps each, till it's 2 last teams standing.
So just a BR.
No, it's like kind of like BR mixed with gunfighting. But you didn't play gunfight in Modern Warfare, which was actually pretty fun. So it looks pretty interesting. So I'm ready for that.
I played gun game.
Gun game is not gunfight at all.
I've won a gun game, man.
Oh wow! Congratulations. You wanna? I got you.
Vanguard suck, and
it looks like his good Championship Hill looks interesting, and the beta for Championship Hill will be coming to PlayStation 5 players exclusively next week on the 27th of August. So I'm gonna be playing that. I might even stream it.
Sure, Jan.
but with that being said,
one more thing.
What's
one
up?
more thing. If y'all Spider-Man folks don't, well, I'm pretty sure it's taken.
That's why we didn't bring it up.
Yeah, but I wasn't gonna actually say that. I was actually gonna say, look, y'all know I'm hard on MCU Spider-Man, and with good reason. But if anything happens and y'all get excited, please get excited, because you need to get. There's a lot of things to be excited for.
It's like you giving them a reason to look at this bull crap.
They know that thing has been scrubbed from the internet completely. You can't even buy it anymore. So it's so. But what I'm getting at is that I know I be hard on the MCU Spider-Man with good reason, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't be excited if you are excited. That's more to you than to them, because I know you like to be like, you always are, and with good reason.
But with that being said, geeks and gamers, you already know this is Keep It G. No, it's not, ain't it?
That's 3 weeks in a row.
This is Into the Quniverse. It's your boy Q.
And Moldiversity's on Moldiversity, because this is Moldiversity. Everybody say peace, everybody. Peace.
Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Peace in the middle of the East. Let's get it.
Get them sent up. Get them sent up.